right, guys. I am joined with the one and only Mr. Larry Hankin. How you doing, man?
Well, so far, okay. What with the weather, and if the rain doesn't hurt the rhubarb, everything will be fine.
Hey, there you go, man. I love to hear it. I think we both compared to something like with me being in Florida and you being in California. Weather is a hit or miss with us. It's either super hot or it just likes to rain a lot.
Oh wow. Well, so far, I mean, up until this last 8 days, the
Hmm.
weather here has been just totally normal and fine in the 70s and in the high 70s, which is fine. But now,
Yeah.
this last week, I guess either the weather moved west or it moved east from Asia.
Hmm.
I don't know, but we're hit with 115. It was 127 out in the desert here in the high desert. So it's crazy. Here it's around 90 something, 92 or something. We're not
Hmm.
used to that, but it's worse in other parts of the country. So, and then next week it's going to go back to the 70s. So we're kind of lucky, actually.
Like a switch, ain't it? It's like an on and off switch, kind of.
Well, now it is. Before global warming happened or whatever. No, our temperature was very consistent, very normal. A little cold in the winter and just a little warmer in the summer, and that was fine. Very little difference. But now it's crazy.
Hey,
All over too.
yeah. It's a hit or miss out here. It's like it's been raining so much out here now. It's
Really?
like, yeah,
Well,
I made a joke. I said, sometimes we just need to dig a hole and you can make a swimming pool out here somewhere.
when I first moved here, which was from New York. Well, no, from San Francisco. The weather was weird. I remember having mudslides behind my. I lived in a little tiny, like it was like a one-room house up on,
Hmm.
on the side of a hill, and I remember during the rainy season there would be mudslides, and I can hear mud piling up behind the house. It would just go thump,
Yeah.
falling down from the hill, and because there was no backyard. It was just like the backyard was this, and the house was like this, and the mud would just
Hmm.
pile up in between, and you could hear it at night, just thump thump. But that went away, and now we're in the middle of a drought and fires. It's really
Yeah.
crazy, but not
It,
not like normal crazy. I mean, rain or heat, but not fires and floods, man. Wow, that's
y'all are really going through a cinematic experience, that's for sure over there.
but I can't complain because the rest of the world, not the rest of the country, but the rest of the world. I mean, Pakistan is like underwater. The entire country is underwater. I mean, that's yeah. So yeah, you can't complain, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing I can
Yeah.
do about it. And what do you call it? The temperature. My air conditioning is just. I got to get it fixed, or the apartment has to get it fixed. So there's no air conditioning. It's
That's a good perk. That's a good perk of the apartment complex. They gotta fix it, not you.
yeah. Well, if they fix it, if they
Hmm.
fix it. So
Yeah.
you just go on. You go on with whatever else you got to do. Yeah, that's all. That's all I can think of. Luckily, I'm a writer, so I can
Hmm.
write and sit in my house and write. As opposed to traveling somewhere. To act.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Trade-off.
So, Larry, if nobody knows who you are, man, which I'm pretty sure seeing you, somebody's got to know some legacy
Well,
that you have hold for sure.
yeah, they know, they recognize my face. They don't know my name. I'm known as that guy. I walk down the
That
street.
guy?
Yeah, people go, "Oh, hey, you're that guy." From Breaking Bad. Oh, you're that guy from Friends. So I just wrote a book called I called it That Guy. It's about my years in show business. It's kind of
Hmm.
funny, actually. Very fun. It is
Hey, that's
funny.
a way to trademark, though. I mean, at least you could be looked at and they know that you have done something. Like they know you're a part of that. That's when you know you've left your mark in the big business things, that aspect. Like, with me with wrestling, I I mean, if you look at Rock, Austin, Hogan, all these guys, you know that they've been a pro wrestler. You know what
Oh
they've
yeah.
done, just because even if they're doing anything outside of it, you know what they came from. So that just kind of shows like, okay, man, they know who you are. They just don't know your name, but they know exactly that you've
Well,
been on plenty of screens and stuff like that.
yeah, but the yeah, but yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, but
but I want to do something with that. In other
yeah.
words, I'm not ready to retire. So
Hmm.
okay, so everybody knows me on the street, but I don't want to be an actor anymore. So
Right.
whatever you saw me in, that's past. It's not going to
Hmm.
happen again. I don't want to do that anymore. I
Right.
just got tired of it. It's not fun. So now that I'm known, now I'd like to monetize that,
Right.
use it in some way. And so writing is the way I'm going to use it. So I don't look at it like you just described it. I look at it as, yeah, but what have you done lately? That's what I see.
Yeah.
Not oh,
Always want to
I've done that.
adapt.
You know what I want. No, that means nothing to me. Really, I don't care if you know what I did. I want to know that you know what I'm doing now and tomorrow.
Mhm.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking
Right.
that way, not that way. So
Hey.
it's something else to do. So it keeps me going.
Okay. Hey, I love the motivation because I mean, like how you said, you want to make a marking because yeah, you were labeled as something else. They don't know your name, which is insane to me. And then obviously you wanting to be a writer and stuff like that. So how was that transition? Like how was the
It's
transition
very
from being an
difficult.
actor to a writer?
Well, I thought it would be easy because the audience,
Hmm.
knows who I am or what I've done.
Right.
But um, no, that's not very satisfactory at all. I want to know that now I'm being useful, that I'm using
Hmm.
what I have, whatever talent I have, whatever I am, I want to know I'm using it. And somebody coming up and saying, hey, you're that guy from Breaking Bad, doesn't tell me I'm being useful at all. It tells me it's
Hmm.
something I did in the past. The past is like nothing to me. The past doesn't exist.
Right.
It, I can't use it except maybe to, oh, what I did. Well, I'm doing this now. Maybe you'd be interested
Hmm.
in this. So, I mean, it's good to talk about. I do podcasts, but I'm doing podcasts to let you know that I'm a writer now. The
Right.
transition is really hard. It's like starting out being an actor in the beginning.
Hmm.
Starting about out being a wrestler in the beginning. It's it's in the beginning.
Yeah.
In the beginning is hard. It gets better, but in the beginning it's hard, and I'm back to square one. It's hard. And I don't think there's anything that's in the beginning is easy. In the
No.
what is it? The I Ching. It says, I have it right here. Difficulty in the beginning.
Okay. I see.
Uh, Difficulty in the beginning, and then it
Oh.
says grow, let
Uh-huh.
it go, and move on. So that's what I'm doing. Very simple.
Right.
That's all.
Uh-huh. I see what you're saying.
Where'd you go? You just disappeared.
No, I had to adjust something real quick. I wanted to
Oh,
make it look a little bit more presentable. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. So, I love how you said, like, it's literally how you basically are starting from square one again. And a lot of
right.
people, and I think that's another, and I think this is a great value to use too, because, like how you just said, with me wrestling, you acting and stuff like that, for you to start a new transition is a very difficult thing because honestly, you're getting stuck out of your comfort zone because, like how you said, you've done acting for so long, but it still is crazy. Like you were only labeled as considered that guy because you've been in some big franchise, stuff. Like I know that's got to be something for you because I mean,
Oh no,
those are
I'm
always
not
on
trying to.
TV.
I'm not trying to diss it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm not trying. No, I mean that happened. I'm very glad it happened. I did my best. You know, I always try to
Hmm.
do my best, and it happened. But it's over. There's nothing I
Yep.
can do to make it not over. It's
Right.
over. It's over from me inside, and it's also
Hmm.
over from out there. You know, I've given up my agents, and generally the fan base is starting to now disappear from that,
Right.
and I'm trying to build a new fan base. But
Hmm.
there's a double thing, and you probably know this. Not only in the beginning I had nothing, you know, I graduated college and I wanted to be in the show business, and you start, so you try to build and you get jobs and you audition, so that's difficulty in the beginning, and then you
Hmm.
blah 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 and you build up and you build up. Okay, but now not only do I have to start over because the writing business is not show business, it's
Right.
writing business. So that has different uh, paradigms, it has different rules, it has just different actions and people in it.
Right.
So you have to start over again. But the other thing, it's an added, I have to get rid of what I did
Hmm.
and start over again. No, I'm not an actor anymore. So people say, well, you know, what are you doing lately? Anything I can see you in? No, you can't see me in anything new because I'm not doing anything new. I'm a writer now. You're going to have to buy a book now, you know?
Right.
So that's different. And they have to, now, a lot of them don't want to buy a book. They want to watch me on television. So that's, I can't sell them a book just because I was an actor. They want
Exactly.
to
Yeah, yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
something. They don't want to read something. So it's a whole
Hmm.
different audience. So you got to get rid of it. I said something many years ago. Many years ago, I said a lot of interesting things. So a friend of mine was a painter. Well, yeah, you know, an artist, a great one. I think she should be in museums. I mean, that's how great she is. So this was about 20 years ago, and she said, I really feel depressed. And I said, you know, why? You're so talented. Your paintings are so great. And she said, yeah, but I just feel like everything is dying around me. You know, it's just, yeah, she was very finding it hard to sell her paintings and stuff like that. You know, what you go through. You know, it's hard for me to get
Yeah,
in
yeah,
touch.
yeah.
So I
I
said,
think
well, you
I
know,
think any professional athlete goes through that. Any type
yeah.
of thing. If like because you've went so much higher to what you've been achieving for so long, to like when you do get it, it's like there's nothing else that you can achieve towards that. And
Let me just
most
interrupt
of the
right there.
time,
It's point of view. You can think of it that
yeah.
way because it's all in your head, man. It has nothing
Hmm.
to do with the real world. It's in your head how you look at the world, and you can. And so she was looking at it like she says, "There's death all around me." It was that kind of things are dying all around me, and
Hmm.
I said, "Yeah, like the snake who says, I'm surrounded by death as he's shedding his skin." That's
That's
all.
a great reference.
Yeah. And I thought that I said that 20 years ago. I still live by that. I'm just shedding my skin. I'm not dying, and it's not death. It's how I'm looking at it. I'm
That'd be a good
shedding a
title of a
skin.
book right there, buddy. That'd be a good
Well, you know,
title of a
whatever.
book.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than a book. It's like words to live by, you know.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
at
yeah,
that
yeah.
point where I'm shedding my skin, and yeah, it's dead, but it's my skin, and I'm just another guy now. And
Exactly.
frankly, if you really want to know, I'm better for it. I feel a lot freer. I feel a lot lighter. I feel a lot younger. You know,
That's awesome,
so
man. That
so
that's a great
it's
way to express
cool.
that.
And I don't dwell on the past. That's over. You know, it's
Hmm.
like a lot of, you know, one of my, well, like your parents. Everybody sooner or later is gonna be an orphan. Get used to it. Even if it
Yeah,
happens when you're 65 or 70, you know, your parents pass away. Nothing you can do about it. But you just, you know, you mourn it, and then you should you're starting fresh. Now you should be lighter. Now you go on to other things. It's all that kind of how you look at it, how you process it. It's all in here, you know. So I
I've
mean
never
that's
thought
why
it like that. That's a good moral for sure because I mean,
you
when
can't
you
live
look at it like that,
so
it's like, yeah, that's pretty right. Like in a way, like you don't nobody thinks that, and I loved how you said, eventually everyone's going to become an orphan, and I'm thinking, I'm like, that is really true. Like it doesn't matter what age it is, but you're going somehow to experience that or something like that. So,
but
man, that's definitely some major light right there.
yeah, I mean, but everybody gets over that. In other words, everybody
Hmm.
knows that's part of life, and you may mourn for a month, a year, 2 years, but eventually you get over it, and nobody has to tell you that. That's like
Right.
in your DNA. You get over it. But I just think that's a lesson for life that you can. That's everything. It's wrestling.
Hmm.
It's painting, it's acting, it's writing. I mean, when I get over writing, I'm going to have to find something else, you know?
Right.
Yeah, you just get over it, man. I mean, that phrase, that's a cliche. Hey man, get over it. But
Hmm.
wow, if you stop and think about that phrase, it's right on, man. You
Hmm.
know?
It's just something that you don't want to hear. That's really what it is. It's
But
something
you
that a
got
lot
to
of people
hear
don't
it.
like to hear. Exactly. Yeah, you gotta take the tough love sometimes, and I love how you reference, with the orphan thing. Like that struck me for real because I was like, I never thought it like that, but you were spot on with that. Like that's not something that any one of us want to hear, but
You're
that's
going to hear
life.
it whether you want to or
That's
not.
life. That's a part of a cycle. So yeah, that's crazy. So I want to know, Larry. So
Yeah.
what have you taken out of acting? Because obviously you had to know the art of storytelling and knowing of how to make a
Aha.
moments and stuff like that. So what did you take out of that to go into writing?
Well, that's a great question because I'm only learning that right now. I'm reading,
Hmm.
how to be a writer, uh, even though I've written all my life. Uh, and basically, what I took from it was I'm eventually, as I grew up and was in show business and learning and then processing and then getting a handle on it and knowing what I was doing, you find out that I'm a born storyteller. I've been telling stories to my mom sitting on her knee when I was like 3, 4 years old. I was telling my mom
Hmm.
stories and she would listen. She would, say, what, like, and when I would come home from school, like first grade, second grade, third grade. And she would say, as soon as I came in the door, from school, she'd say, "Well, what'd you do today?" And that was a great thing. And I would tell her. And she would sit and listen, boring or great or whatever. She would sit and listen. And I kind of got to know that, wow, my mom listened to me. I must be a good storyteller. Now, it never really formed consciously. I
Hmm.
never thought when I was 5, oh, I'm a good storyteller. That never occurred to me. But
Right.
you listened and I just kept on doing it. And then when I grew up and in the schoolyard, I would tell my friends stories that were funny. I mean, I made them funny. When it came out of my mouth, they were funny, but they were. So I just brought that along. And as I became an actor, I realized acting is storytelling. It's you're helping the writer of the screenplay or the play, the stage play, or I was a stand-up comedian. I would tell the audience my day, just like I would tell my mom my day in school, and it would be funny. And I just brought that into acting. I was helping the author of the screenplay tell his story. But to help him tell his story, I had to help the audience tell the story of my character, which would help tell the author's story of his
Right.
narrative. And I just bring that along. Now, I didn't know how to write professionally. I would send my screenplays. I would write screen while I wasn't acting because there's long periods where you're not acting, where you're looking for a job, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And I would sit home and I would write screenplays. And it took me a long time to figure out, well, you can't just write a screenplay. It has to be for something or somebody.
Hmm.
You, I, if in other words, if my mother didn't ask me, what was that like? How was your day? What did you do in school today? If she didn't ask me that question, I wouldn't tell the story because
Right.
nobody else was asking me that. So I wouldn't know that I could tell stories. So the story was for my mom because she asked me. And
Hmm.
that was the key, that whatever you do, it's got to be for something. You can't just do it. When you wrestle, when you did wrestle, it wasn't just to wrestle. It was maybe to beat the guy or to win a prize or to be able to hang with the other wrestlers or to tell your wrestling stories or to give you something, a reason to go on, because you want to learn. I mean, we're all curious people and we absorb things. We want to just get it out. It's a cycle. So if my mom didn't ask me, so when I transferred from acting to writing, I started. Uh, I couldn't sell a screenplay, and the feedback that I got, I didn't understand. And then I was reading this book. Actually, I'll tell you what the book is. It's called. It's a Stephen King. I never read a Stephen King book. When I became an actor, I stopped reading for some reason.
Oh,
Except,
really? I thought that's like
yeah,
the whole opposite.
no, I when I was a little kid. See, I'm lucky enough to be old enough, and I got this out of the book. Stephen King, who's one of the greatest storytellers ever. You know, besides maybe Aesop and the class Cervantes. But I mean, he sells a lot of books. So he said, I don't just tell stories. I tell it for somebody. I,
Hmm.
I sit in a locked room with a shut door, and I go in my mind, but I'm writing it for my wife, he says in this thing. He says, I write it for my wife and I write it for myself because I want to read it and be entertained by what I write. But it's got to be good because I know
Right.
bad writing. So it's for something, my wife and me. That's it. He said, I don't care about the audience. I'm writing it for a very specific person or a very, and he said, even for myself, he says to myself. So that's, I, I go, oh, that's why I can't sell screenplays. I'm not writing it for me. I'm writing it for Hollywood.
Right.
That's too general. You got to, are you writing a horror story? Are you writing a love story? Are you writing a comedy, a date? It's got to be that because they have genres. So you also have to know the field that you're in. You have to know something about wrestling before you start wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to have a hero who's a wrestler. You got to try to imitate him. You got to get in it. You got to get
Mm.
in it. Come from the inside out. And I was always from the outside, trying to get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to know something about it before you. So that's what I'm
Yep.
learning, and that's what I learned. I had to learn. I had to learn about writing. I had to read books about writing, how to write. Even though I've been writing all my life, poetry, stage plays, screenplays, my stand-up comedy act, you know. But it was just something that I thought it was a gift. I have a gift I'm a storyteller like Aesop. No, I was a natural. That's different. I'm a natural storyteller. I am. But to actually set it down on paper and say, no, I am a writer, you got to know something about writing. So that's what I'm learning now. And it improves my writing. I read
Hmm.
my writing and it's better now because I got into it. Just being an actor and, well, I'm not doing anything. I think I'll write a screenplay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No. No.
Were you one of those actors that literally like you would not watch your own projects
No, I will watch
because
my
you're
own
your own critique?
No, I would want. Well, yeah, I'm a harsh critic of myself. Oh, I'm murderous, but I do watch everything I do, not over and over again. But I make my own movies, and I started to write my own little my little film shorts. So I would
Mm-hmm.
write those. But the way I thought I would learn, see, there's two ways to. There's the jungle parable. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's a jungle. Now here's your problem. You have a helicopter ride, one free helicopter ride. Now, you can take the helicopter, the free ride, and the helicopter can take you into the center of the jungle, drop you in the middle of the jungle,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to get out of the jungle yourself,
Right.
mainly by walking out. Whoops.
I got fantasized about the jungle, and all of a sudden the jungle attacked me.
So that's what would happen. You know, a tiger would get you, or an elephant would step on you, or a spider would bite you. Okay. But
Yeah.
you have a choice. You can walk into the jungle to get to the center, but you have a free helicopter ride out of the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
But you only have one trip, either a helicopter in and you got to get out, or you got to get in and the helicopter will get you out.
Right.
Now, each is the same distance and each has one free ride.
Okay.
And you have to make a choice. Now, there's no right or wrong choice. It's just like life choices. Some people like to dog it out and get into the middle of the jungle by themselves because they want to get a free ride out. They'll be exhausted by the time they get to the center of the jungle. But there's other people who'd rather have the free ride in, and I'll just leave me alone. I'll figure a way out, you know. And that's just a life choice.
Yeah.
So that's wrestling, that's acting, that's writing, that's your
Oh,
life,
yeah.
that's marriage, that's whatever. You know, it's a choice. You make a choice of what's the best way I can get into this and out of this. You know, I want to get into a marriage and I don't want to ever get out. You know, marriage for life, or I want to
Mm-hmm.
get into it, but you know, there's nothing wrong with divorce. So, I mean, I can accept that if my wife wants to divorce me, if I want to divorce my wife, you know. And I had that argument with my father when I was very young about my sister who was dating somebody he didn't approve of. And he said, "You got to talk to your sister." And I said, "About what?" You know, she's younger than me, 5 years younger. She said, "Well, she's dating a guy that he didn't approve of." And
Mm-hmm.
I said, "So, you know, so you don't approve of it. You know, she'll either wake up or she doesn't care what you think." She says, "No, no, no, you got to stop it. Talk to her. She won't listen to me." I said, "What am I going to tell her?" She said, and why should I stop it? So, and he says, "Well, it's not going to work." I say, "Yeah." He says, "Well, they'll get divorced." I go, "Yeah, so 50% of marriages in the United States fail and end in divorce. It's amazing, but that's a fact. 50%. So he said, "No, no, they'll get divorced." And then he said, I don't even want to say what he said. It was just awful. He said, "No, he's you know, and then fill in the worst thing you could say about somebody." And I said, "So they'll get divorced." And he goes, "No." And to my father, getting divorced was the worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Now we're Jewish. So I'm not anything. I don't believe in religion. Religion is probably the worst thing. I mean, they were good for morals, but they've overstepped their boundaries a little." So I said to him, "No, he's bop, bop, bop." And I said, "So what?" And she's, "You don't understand, Larry. Your sister is marrying and I said, "No, Dad, you don't understand. My sister is marrying a kike." And he just went, he didn't talk to me for a month, man. I mean,
Oh.
he was so angry. Now, he used to beat me with a strap, but he was so angry he couldn't even do that. He was frozen with anger. I mean, I my mom has pulled him off my sister because he was going to beat her to death. I mean, he goes crazy. He
Hmm.
loses it. But that's my example of what boundary thinking does.
Hmm.
He got so angry at just a word, kike, you know, that he just lost his mind. He lost his mind. He was literally frozen, immobile. And he didn't speak to me for a month. And my mom had to say, if you don't start talking to your son, I'm going to leave. I mean, that's the kind of household I grew up in.
Right, right, right.
But it's because of this, these blinders on minds, you know, that they just won't let go. Well, it's the same with art and life. And no, you just got to get into it and just let it go where it goes. And you can't have boundaries. But do you want a helicopter in or do you want a helicopter out? He just said either don't go into the jungle or go into the jungle and get out yourself. It was all this or that, not, you know, it doesn't matter which way. So
Hmm.
I guess I'm going into a long dissertation about just learning and being open. That's kind of how I go through life. You know, it's kind of Zen for urban living. You know,
Okay.
I mean, you just gotta let it. You know, we're all Homo
Right, its course,
sapiens.
basically.
Yeah, we're all Homo sapiens, and we all got the same problems. You know, what should I do today? That's it. You know, what am I
That's the
going to
best way
do
to put
today?
it, man. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to put it. Like, I, yeah, that's right. It's only 50%, I think. That's even the crazier part.
Yeah, yeah, and that's you're lucky if you got 50%. You know, choice of blah blah blah. Because I was
It's
home. I
literally
lived.
like a number nowadays now. It's crazy. It's like literally people just get married to get married nowadays. It's like,
Yeah, and you just if you can't change it, then you deal with it. You know, and a lot of
hmm,
people, like my father, he can't change it, but he wouldn't deal with it either. So he just
right.
cemented up either choice. Well, I'm not going to deal with it, but I'm not going to change it, or I'm not going to deal with it, and I think I can't change it. Or even if you
Hmm.
can't change it, then you got to deal with it. But he refused to do anything but have his own. Well, yeah, that's not how the universe works. It doesn't work like that. I mean,
Say
not
that in
for
plural.
yeah,
The universe.
not for sentient beings anyway. I mean, if you're a
Hmm.
rock, okay, you know, you hit another rock, you just crumble, you know, out
Hmm.
there in space. But here on Earth, you know, we're Homo sapiens. You know, we have we you know we can't we get along? You know that old phrase. Hey, why can't we just get along? So to me, the transition is something that I just discovered. Oh, I can't just be a writer. You know, even though I was born to have the proclivity for it. You know that you know Greg Lunitis. He was a gold medal diver in the Olympics years back, uh, and they hooked him up to a brain thing. You know, they wanted to see because he would do these amazing dives that would be tens, and he won all kinds of medals. I think nobody has ever broken his record for diving. And
Hmm.
I would watch him, you know, when the Olympics came around, and it'd be just tumble and then just go in, and he would. The whole thing is you don't leave any splash. That's like a 10, right? You
Yeah.
just go in so fucking smooth, and you just go, whoa! How did he do that, man? So they hooked him up, and they wanted to know if there was anything in the brain that could just let him do that, or was it just practice? And they found out that no, there was in his brain when they talked about diving, or if they gave him any puzzles that had to do with how would you work out this dive, and then they would talk about other things. But when they talked about diving, his brain made connections that were almost immediate. Like
Hmm.
the brain had a shortcut to an answer. Like if I said, you know, how do you play dominoes? His brain would go, Well, you take the one chip and the other. But if you said, how do you do a double half gainer? His brain would just go just like that. Now
It's
that,
like a muscle memory type scenario.
it
Kind of
was
like
a
muscle memory.
it was muscle memory, nerve memory. You got
Okay.
it. That's what it is. And your body, and I discovered it since then, this nerve memory thing, because I'm trying to practice guitar. And
Hmm.
somebody said, but the fingers, muscle memory. I say, yeah, but there's other things like singing and where the pick goes. I'm not even thinking about it. Yeah, it's muscle, but then I can remember words that I didn't think I knew and blah, blah, blah. So there's nerve memory and there's muscle memory. And they found out that we all have these tracks that give us a proclivity for being a storyteller or being a wrestler. I mean, you
Right.
probably are a better wrestler than you are an ice skater, maybe,
More
because
likely.
yeah. So, but now you don't have, yeah. So if you start trying to practice ice skating, it'll take you 3 weeks
Hmm.
to learn how to ice skate. But if you start to practice wrestling, for some reason, your brain will find a shortcut, a nerve, and then it'll keep that. Or I guess what it is bop 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 bop. In other words, it just creates shortcuts to there. You say, oh, this is where it is. How do I get there? Oh, just
Hmm.
there. Well, everything is like that. In other words, I always thought of, when I'm learning guitar and I'm trying to play the rhythm, get the chords, and remember the words. 3 different
Hmm.
things. Now I can do that. In the beginning, I couldn't, and it took me
It was like rocket
years.
science at first.
Yeah, but it took me years to learn how to coordinate all of that stuff. And then somebody said, "Well, yeah, it's muscle memory." Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. Knowing that made it a little easier for me, at least to learn. At least it gave me a little more patience. Oh, I see. It's not me. It's just the muscles have got to learn it. So I'll
Hmm.
wait. Okay. But now when I play, I don't even think about that stuff. I just play and
Hmm.
sing and play. Okay. And I'm thinking, all right, the question becomes, who's the guy who's taking care of all that? I mean, me, but I'm not thinking about my hands. I'm not thinking about the rhythm, and I'm not thinking about the words. I'm just singing a song and playing for you. And I'm saying,
Hmm.
who's taking care of all that stuff? Well, it's muscle memory and nerve memory. I call it the other guy. Not that guy, but the other guy. Now, everybody has that. You know where the milk is in the refrigerator. You don't have to think about it. That's like
Hmm.
muscle memory and nerve memory. You can picture where the milk is in the refrigerator. Boop, you got it. It's right there. And then you go to the refrigerator, and yeah, there it is. So we all are built, Homo sapiens are built that way. And if you just realize that, it takes a load off your mind, man. It just so now when I try something new and I can't get it, I don't get all uptight. I just say, no,
Hmm.
my muscles don't get it yet. So I just have to wait until that guy gets it. And I have to play it 140 times until he gets it. I can't rush him. I can't cut it down to 10 until I do it 140 times. Do it 140
Yeah.
times, he gets it, and there it is. So it's not me, it's that guy. And so once I switch the point of view to, oh, I can't learn anything, to it's that guy, it's muscle learn. I I can learn things a lot faster because
Hmm.
I'm relaxed and leaving it to him. So that's writing, that's acting to writing. Oh, I see. I got to learn the book business. It's different than the acting business. It's a different way of getting an agent. They want different things than an
Really?
agent. You have to, and even the way you submit things, you have to, you submit photo and resume or video and resume. That has nothing to do. A book, guys, a video of what? What are you going to send me? No. double spaced manuscript, no staples, what do you call it? Whatever you call it, but no staples, and then there's certain, and send it to me. And I won't tell you for a month or 2 months. I mean, they even tell you how long it's going to take for them to read it. And you got to
Hmm.
wait 2 months. And you can't speed it up. You can't keep calling them. Well, did you read it yet? You just gotta, well, that's the muscle memory, the impatient guy. No, I want it now. I want it now. Well,
Hmm.
in acting, it's a little faster, but books. Oh, and then the release date. Yeah. Oh, we love your book. We're going to publish it. Great. When is it going to be released? A year and a half from today. What? Hey, man, that's the book business. You don't like it? Do something else. That's how we
I've
work.
heard some people about that. I've heard some people say like it takes like a year or two for it to get published, and I'm just like, holy cow! And I'm
Right.
like the book has already been done like in a year in advance. Like
Right.
that's the insane part. Like, so
Now,
how's that been for you? Because obviously, with movie roles and the TV series, like obviously you go do series to series or movie to movie. You go and make all these projects, and obviously they get done when they get done type scenario. But with books, like how you just said, you write a book, you got to wait a year or something like that before you get published. How's that consistency to keep writing more books each and every time?
you got to love what you do, man.
Hmm.
You got to do it because you have to do it. It's a calling. And if you hate it and still do it, you're fighting yourself. You're not fighting what you're doing. You're fighting yourself. You don't want to be here, man. But yeah, I got to pay the rent. I've got a child to support. Okay,
Hmm.
then deal with that. Don't fight it. Oh God, I hate it, but I got to do it. No, I got a child. I love the child, and I'm doing it for the child. So forget yourself, man. Or why did you have the child? But you got the child, so deal with it. Your dad, my dad, she loves this guy. Deal with that, Dad. And if she stops loving him, they'll get divorced. It's okay. But here's to direct to your question. I didn't know how to act. I never wanted to be an actor. The money was good and I did it. But here's the downside of thinking like that. And that's why I had to get out finally. Is I could do it. I had a proclivity for it. There was a little shortcut in my brain where if you gave me a script, I could act it out. I could see how the character worked. But here's the downside of that. Since I didn't know how to act, I never went to acting school. There's a way to act. There's lessons. There's a way to learn how to memorize a script. But there's also a way to learn how to break down a script, which takes
Hmm.
time. And I never learned how to break down a script. I never even heard of that. I didn't learn of that until I was 3 years into acting and making a good living.
Oh,
But
wow.
I never figured out why I couldn't get any larger parts. If you'll notice, all my parts are cameo parts.
Hmm.
And the reason was that I was fighting myself. I refused to learn how to get bigger parts. Break down the script, Larry, and then
So
it's
you were finding
easy to remember.
shortcuts, basically. That's what you're trying to say. There was a lot of
Well,
shortcuts.
yeah, I didn't know any shortcuts. I'd never learned how to break down a script. Well, if you don't know how to break down a script, you'll never learn the words to a large leading man role.
Hmm.
Because if you break down a script, you break it down into parts and you understand each scene. And then you learn how to break down the scene. So if it's a long scene, you can. But I never learned any of that. So all I did was, if I couldn't learn it in 1 or 2 nights, at home, I would say, I don't want to do this part. It's
Oh,
yeah, too
really?
much. It's too much. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much work. I can't memorize the lines. I don't want to do it. So I tell my agent, no, turn it down. I don't want to do it. Now that's the misuse of something that you should have. My agent told me, Larry, because I would never turn down a part. Because in the beginning, you only get small roles. So I didn't even have to think about it. Oh, it's a small role. I memorized it. I did it. I had a proclivity for it. I could imagine the guy, the character, and I would just do that in front of the camera. It didn't bother me because I'm a performer. I would perform for my mom. I would perform for kids in school, even if it was in the schoolyard, and I would act out the story. So I had that kind of imagination in front. I just did it naturally.
Right.
But if I couldn't memorize it, if I didn't have the learning capability of learning a big part, I would turn it down. And my agent always said, because I never turned down a part. And one time he said, I got this thing for you. When I read it, they send you a little thing before you accept it. They said, well, this is the part. I called him and I said, hey, man, this is an awful role. First of all, I couldn't picture the character. I didn't know how to, I said, I don't want to do it, man. I don't want to do this. So he said, and I didn't like the costume. I think I had to not wear a shirt, or I had to wear a shirt like you're wearing, a wife beater shirt, wrestling, where your most of your body is shown. But I had, body image difficulties when I was young. So I didn't want to take off my shirt and be photographed. So I said, well, I don't want to wear that costume. I don't want to do the part. So he said, well, turn it down. So I said, this is in the beginning, I said, well, if I turn it down, they'll never hire me again. So I have to do it. And he said, are you crazy? He said, Larry, you have to have a no. You can't just go through life saying yes to everything. I mean, there's parts that actors turn down. You have to give yourself some choices.
Right.
Oh, okay. But then I use that as a hard and fast rule for everything. In other words, I just say no just because I could
Just
say
because,
no.
yeah.
Well, so that, in other words, that's the misuse of freedom, just no. But what I was saying was, it's too much work. I don't want to learn.
Right.
And that's
No.
like suicidal, man.
Mm-hmm.
You either learn to learn or get away from it. If you don't want to learn it, you got to love it. So that's, how you keep writing without any money, with all these rejection slips. In Stephen King's book on writing, he had a spike. In the old-fashioned business, mom and pop shops, they had a little spike for their receipts. There's a little spike, and you put the receipt on it like that.
Right.
Well, when he was growing up, sending in short stories to all these magazines and getting rejections, he had a spike for his rejections. And he said at one point, when he got to be about 19, and he would just write. He was going to school and everything, but he would just write these little short stories, send them in the magazines. He said when he was about 19, he couldn't put any more rejection slips on his spike. That's how many rejection slips he had. So the question becomes, how did you keep writing with all these rejections? Because I loved writing. It had nothing to do with the rejection. If anything, I'd say, well, you just don't understand what I wrote, or I can do it better. See, when I was in stand-up, I did learn one thing, because I wanted to be. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian with all my heart. So I would watch and I would try to do it better and try to figure out. In other words, I try to figure out how to learn to do stand-up better. I didn't ask anybody because they didn't know. My parents beat it out of me, how to learn to learn. I was afraid to learn anything because that would be new information and I'd have to face my father in that closed mind. So I refused to learn how to learn new things. That's insane, man. But that's what my father taught me. Don't learn anything. We'll give you all the information right in this house, right in this religion, and there's nothing else you need to know. So don't learn anything besides me and the religion.
So you're getting to do a lot of things on your terms now, basically. You getting to branch out and express how you feel, how you
admit
believe
that to yourself. You can't just say that. You got to come to that epiphanistic moment for yourself. Oh my God, And it takes a lot to get rid of that tape in your head about what your father. Or it doesn't have to be your father. It could be your mother. It could be your teachers. It could be your seniors. Anybody who you looked up to. Don't learn how to learn. No. In other words, you can learn what I teach you, what I'm teaching you. You can learn what the religion is teaching you. But outside of that, close it off, man. It's scary. It's monsters out there. New knowledge is monsters. God damn.
That,
And so
that's
now I just
that's a
love it.
beautiful way to point out. That's a beautiful way to put in perspective.
Well, that's
That's a
that's how
really
it was
good way.
presented to me. So finally, when I read this book, Stephen King on writing, is it called Stephen King on Writing? He just opened my mind to writing, because that was a shoehorn into writing, which I never had a book of learning or anybody for acting. It took
Mm.
me 5 years before I finally understood about, but then it was too late. I was already thinking, I'll do this for a while because I need the money, but I'm going to get out of this. I mean,
Mhm.
but it took me 5 years to come to that conclusion that no, I don't love this. I loved stand up. Oh man, you couldn't stop me from learning. And how I learned was when I got off the stage and didn't get any laughs. What I said to myself was, uh, wow, I didn't get any laughs in the places where I wanted laughs. I can do it better next time. And I would go home and think about, I got to change this joke.
Mhm.
I got to polish this. I got to do a rewrite, which is what writing is all about. It's rewriting. But I never knew that until 5 years into it. Now I want to be a writer for, I'd say, about maybe a year, maybe a year. But I just read this book and boom, he just
Just changed it all up for you again.
almost instantaneously. It was like I was on drugs or something. I mean, I felt high because wow, oh, that's what it's all about. Writing, write for very specific small people in a closed room. He says, I write for my wife and I write for myself. I love writing. That's why I write. Do I get a lot of money? Yeah. But I also got that many rejections where I ran out of spike room.
Yeah.
But I wasn't writing for money. I wasn't writing to have no spikes on, to no rejections. I was writing because I couldn't stop. And with stand up, I couldn't stop learning. I was driven. I was chosen, you know. It
So what
came
got you out of stand up? So what? How come you had to step down from stand up?
because I started to get into critical thinking. Uh,
Okay.
Lenny Bruce, Richie Pryor, George Carlin. I started to make jokes about religion, about sex, about drugs, about rock and roll. I started to make jokes about thinking. I mean, I started to tell stories about stupidity. I started
Mhm.
to make jokes about anything that you didn't want to hear. I thought, oh, this will be good. Homelessness. Nobody wants to hear about homelessness. That's my best friend, who's a writer, famous writer. He goes, I got an Academy Award nomination for writing a screenplay about a homeless guy. And I wrote it, directed it, and did the lead in it. This is 20, 30 years ago.
Mhm.
I just had this thing because I was an actor. I didn't want to be an actor anymore, but I said I can do acting, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty good at it now. Been in it so long. So let me write my own little screenplay, see if I learned anything, and can I and writing. So I wrote this 10-minute film short, and a friend of mine, I didn't want to do this, but he said, "Yeah, let's do this." He submitted it for me into the Academy. I was afraid to do that. I thought it wasn't good enough. I'm a very vicious critic of myself, and it got an
Mhm.
Academy Award nomination. And it was about a homeless guy. Now I had to show it to my friends. You show it to your friends before you send it out to the Academy, just to get a little feedback. So I showed it to my
Right.
friend writer. We had a little private screening for about 4 of my friends. But I drove there with my friend. He drove me to the screening. So on the way back, he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything at the screening. And I got in the car and he's driving me home and he's still not saying anything. We're talking about everything but the screening. So finally I just said, "Hey man, what did you think about the screening?" And he says, "No, I've known this guy all my life. We grew up together."
Uh-huh.
And he goes, "Well, I didn't want to say this, but," he's driving while he's saying this, "nobody wants to see a movie about homeless people, Larry. I mean, they're dirty, you know. They want to know about happy things."
Mm-hmm.
And I go, "What?" And he goes, "You asked me, so I told you." And then another friend of mine said, "We're going to hand this into the academy." And I said, "No," thinking my friend said nobody wants to hear about homeless people. So, and it was a very funny film. And he said, "What are you, crazy? I'm handing it in anyway." And I say, "No, don't." And he said, "Screw you, I'm handing it in." So he handed it in. And he was a cinematographer. He was a friend also. But he had something on the line. He wanted to get jobs with this film. And it was his cinematography. So there's no stopping him. He says, "Screw you, I'm handing it in whether you like it or not." He didn't say that to me. He didn't tell me until after it was accepted. He called me, he said, "I got good news and bad news." I said, "Well, what's the bad news?" "Bad news is, I'm sorry, Larry, but I handed it in to the academy against your wishes." I said, "Oh, man, what's the good news?" "Good news is it's accepted. It's got a nomination." And I didn't say anything. I was so stunned and so stupefied at my own stupidity. I said, "Yeah, well, don't do that again, man." I wouldn't, cop to it. That, yeah, I was in my head, I was going, "Yay, yeah." I wouldn't, "Hey man, don't do that again." If I say don't do it, trying to be right, but we went to so that's where it gets you is you just got to do. I did it for myself. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
did that little film. I did it for me, and that's what works. I got an Academy Award nomination. So, but I didn't learn my lesson good enough because I
Mm-hmm.
stopped after that. Because
Oh, really? You stopped instantly right after it?
I made a couple of films after that, but they weren't passion. They weren't, "I got to do this." It was
Mm-hmm.
my friends go, "Hey, when are you going to do another film? Another film short?" And I go, "Yeah, I'll get around to it." And then, there was, "Stop bothering me. Okay, I'll do a film." And then I would save up the money. And then it became a chore. You have to say, because it's
Yep.
expensive and I couldn't raise the money. And really, the opening for that was I had just done Escape from Alcatraz, big tentpole movie. And I was in it for 3 months, and I got more money than I'd ever gotten in my entire life in one lump sum, $35,000. And I was just doing day playing and sitcoms, and all of a sudden, you get $5,000 or $1,000. But then you have, that has to last for the months that you're out of work. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, whoa. But I got $35,000. And I said to myself, I had enough sense to say to myself, cash. I cashed the check. I wanted to see the money. I actually wanted to see $35,000. So I got $35,000. Then I put it in a bank. And in a shopping bag. I went into a bank with a shopping bag full of money. And I said I wanted to. Yeah, it blew their minds. And they had in the bank had never seen $35,000 in cash. Never. Well, when I said, and I was a hippie, kind of near homeless, and with $35,000 in a shopping bag, in a brown shopping bag, not one of those
Yeah,
designers,
yeah,
a brown paper bag. And I went in there and I said, "I want to open it." It was just in New York. And I said, "I want to open an account," because I'd never had a bank account before. And I went in and I said, "I want to open an account." And the teller said to me, this is down in Greenwich Village. And the teller said to me, "I'm sorry, you can't open an account here." And I said, why? Because I was afraid I was going to be robbed. So this was,
Mm-hmm.
I was dangerous. I was looking over my shoulder. I took a cab. When I cashed the check in one bank up in uptown, I
Mm-hmm.
cashed it. I said, put it in a shopping bag. They had to send somebody out to get a shopping bag in a supermarket. I had to wait a half hour till somebody came back with a shopping bag to the
Oh
bank.
wow.
They put it in a shopping bag. They had a cop walk me to the exit to the bank. And then the cop opened the door to 56th Street and Columbus Circle. The cop opened the door from the bank, and there was 56th Street and Columbus Circle, and I had a shopping bag full of $35,000. And as I stepped out onto the street, he just said, "Good luck, kid." And he shut the door. And I thought, I'm standing there, and it was a glass door, and he's looking at me, standing on the other side, like, you're going to get robbed in 5 minutes, asshole. And so I ran into the middle of the street with the shopping bag, and I stood in front of a cab, the first cab. I said, take me downtown, to where I lived. I said,
Mm-hmm.
nearby bank. So and he says, you can't. When I got there, you can't open an account here. And I had to shopping. And I said, why not? He said, because you have to have more than $200 to open an account, and you obviously don't have $200. And I said, well, yes. And it was the most highest moment of my life. I said, well, I kind of do. Boom. And I put it on the counter.
You just dropped it on down like that.
Oh, man. And she just screamed, oh, my God. She went like that. Oh, my God. And she quickly called, a manager, and then a guy in a suit came, not from behind the teller thing, but out. When a guy in a suit in a bank comes from your side, he said, what seems to be the problem? What
Yeah,
seems
yeah,
to be
yeah.
this $35,000? That's when they said, they said, hey, I said, no, yeah. I was down there because there's two different banks. One was taking it out, and there was a suit guy, and one was where I was putting it in. When I was putting it in, the suit guy came and he said, all right. And they treated me like I was the richest guy in the world. And I was like a hippie. I was sleeping on, on a mattress on the floor. And I'm in the bank, and my hair was down to here. And they sat me in a chair, and next to the bank, and he starts filling out papers and blah, 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 and calling me sir. It was
That
just
sounds like a
wonderful.
comedy movie, man. That sounds like,
Well,
oh,
but yeah,
you
so
don't look
that's
like you belong here. Boom.
oh, it was. You got to do
You
that
were
sometime
saying?
in your life. Sometime in your life, everybody has to have that moment of beau jest where, oh, really? Bam! And her eyes, oh my God. I mean, she didn't even go OMG. She went, oh my God. So yeah. So yeah, you have those moments. But then was when I found out there's other ways of doing things, I guess, or stop being so closed-minded about the world that you were in. I
Mhm.
was sleeping in my car at times.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I spent a year living in my car, homeless. I was homeless. Yeah, it's how you image yourself. What my parents had handed me. You
Hmm.
don't know shit, and you're worth nothing. Here, open the door. Good luck, kid. The cop at the door. Good luck. You don't know anything, and you're worth nothing. Boom. Good luck, kid. Here's the world. That's what my parents had given me, kind of. They never said that, but that's how they treated me and my work. And that
Hmm.
was after 4 years old, because I did sit on my mom's lap and I did tell her about my day, and she loved it, and I loved telling it to her. It was just two people. I loved doing it, and I loved telling it to my mom. I didn't tell it to my dad. And and then I would also, well, I was good enough to tell it to my schoolmates, but it was me and my mom and me, and that was a stand-up, direct response. Hey, I can do this. These are my I told these stories to my mom. I can tell it to you. Acting, no, nobody ever told me I was a good actor or a bad actor, or my parents, they
Oh,
wanted
really?
me to, oh, they wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer and take care of them in their old age. I mean, that was the whole
Hmm.
reason I was alive, to take care of them in their old age. Be a doctor or a lawyer. There was no choices. No choices.
There
Doctor or
you
lawyer.
go.
So, once I got out in the world, the last thing I would do is anything they told me. In other words, yeah. So, yeah, it was. I had a weird upbringing. And it takes you a long time to just get rid of all that
Right.
non-teaching. That keep your blinders on. Keep your blinders on. Just run on this racetrack faster than any horse that comes over here. If you see a nose of a horse over here, just get ahead of it. That's all. You know. I really crazy how to. But
Hey,
I just heard how you were talking to your daughter, man. That's so foreign to me. That's so great. Being a dad and telling your kid that you loved her and watch this movie and screw the podcast. I got to take care of my kid. Right on,
oh,
man.
she loves the podcast. Ever since we got on YouTube, my daughter will just sit there and scream, "That's
Yeah,
daddy, that's daddy." And I mean, like how you just said, like the $200 and boom on the thing. Like
yeah.
I get that feeling when, like, I love how you talked about with writing and acting and stuff like that. That's how I feel with podcasting. Like, first time I did this, COVID happened, and I
Oh
legit
man,
did
right on.
not, like, I legit just felt like I could do this. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I'll try it. That's how I do it in wrestling. I'll try it. Something fell into it. I got really good at it. And then I didn't know how to stop. And I
Well,
started going more into, hey, I'm going to wear costumes and fight guys with body oil all the time. Like, it's just so weird when you think of these stuff. But
well, yeah,
yeah.
but also when you started getting good at it, what was that, in school or something? I mean, in the beginning. Okay,
Hmm.
but so in school you had a coach, and the coach taught you how to be better.
Hmm.
I didn't never had I never had a coach. See, so you had a good connection to learning your craft.
Right.
Like my mom said, "Hey, these are good stories." So I had a coach for my stories. My mom laughed at my mom's laughter or loving what I was saying. She was my coach. I had a coach. But I never had a coach. I never had an acting coach. I would just go to an audition and do it the best I could. And the best I could without having a coach was a little better than everybody else. And I got the job because it was a small part.
Hmm.
And yeah, you had a natural proclivity for wrestling, so you didn't need a coach to get the job of being on the team. You had enough sense and innate talent to get the job. But once you got the job, you had a teacher there to make you better. So when I came
Yep.
off stage, I'd say, I can do it better. I became my own coach because I loved it so much. But when I was a kid, you don't have your own coach. You got to, your
Hmm.
parents, everybody there, what they say is from God, from God to them to me. And that's it. No more. That's it. You know, it takes a long time to get
Crazy.
rid of that, if you're taught wrong, you know.
Hmm.
There's
Well,
bad
I
teachers.
mean, it's like how, like I've always said, I feel like we're always in a machine mode, and we get upset when there's a change, and it attacks us in a way because
Comfort
we're not
zone.
used to it. Our
Comfort
comfort
zone.
is like, how, like, you're supposed to stay not past this line, and if you tiptoed on that, you just start feeling a different type of way because you've been told so long. It's like, hey, that's
Okay.
not the way you need to go.
Have you ever thought of the meaning of the hip hop phrase bust a move?
Nope.
Bust a move. Get the fuck out. Bust a move, man.
There it is.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Bust a move. I mean, that,
Yeah.
a lot of these cliches, stupid things mean something. The first guy who said it was saying the truth. Like, the snake says that as he sheds his skin. You know, when I said it, it blew my mind. I mean, I didn't even know I knew that. I was just
Mhm.
saying it to her. I was trying to help her, and I just said, well, And I go, oh, wait a minute. So yeah, but you need that person like my mom or a coach or an acting coach. Or now I had the book and my literary agent. I sent them the manuscript, and it was good enough for him to say, "Hey, you got talent, but you got to learn how to present the talent to get a literary agent, somebody who was in the business, who knew something, right, who knew how it worked." Immediately told me, "Well, okay, you got talent, can't take that away from you, but now you got to learn how to be a writer, not have talent to be a writer. This is how you got to do it." And then I got a literary agent, and then he started to teach me about other things you got to look out for. Don't sign with these people. They're going to steal your money. Don't sign with these people because they're not who they say they are. You can look it up. Here's where you can look up people. And he gave me that information. So, nobody told me this about acting ever. Everybody
Swimming
said,
with
oh,
sharks, though. That's what it seems like. Swimming with sharks at most.
say that again.
I said it sounds like a lot of swimming with sharks type reference type
Oh,
thing.
yeah. Well, that TV show. I think it's the Shark Tank, the TV show,
Hmm.
the Shark Tank. Well, I watched that. Now, I don't watch that to get investors or anything like that, although it does help me do that. Raising money is uh, part of making films and part of acting. In other words, if you want to make your own film, you have to know how to raise money, which
Hmm.
doesn't seem to be about acting at all. But when you get big enough to make your own movie and be the lead in it, you have to learn how to raise money. And
Hmm.
but anyway, I learned how to deal with money, not just raise money. But I watch it because how they reject a project but go along with somebody and they give them, yeah, I'll give you, $500,000 for 20% of your thing. But I listened to, how did he come to that conclusion? What about this guy who had this invention made him different from the guy before it? This same guy rejected that guy, but he went with this guy. So I wasn't watching the shark as much as how the shark accepted this guy and rejected that guy. What did that guy have different than that guy? Not what's this shark different. I mean, and other people watch the sharks because they want to,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
no, but I was watching because I'm a seller. I have an art and I want to get it out. So I said, oh, and I would learn. But I never did that with acting. I never wanted to learn about acting. I just did it, got the money, and went home and typed, or got on the internet or whatever. So,
So
yeah, it's how you look
yeah,
at things.
I love how you reference that. So Larry, before we go, I I I really want to know. So like you just used that reference so well, and I use that in wrestling. Everyone could wrestle an amazing way. It's about the character that changes the outlook for the audience to care about that character. Like the way you just described acting and the way you sell stuff like that. Is there any movie or TV show that you've ever played in that you became a fan, that you were a legit fan of?
Of myself or of somebody in the.
Just that whole franchise, like there was something like you knew that, like how you just said, like you took the role, you got paid and
Oh,
you left,
okay.
whatever. Was there any type of role that you did in any type of movie? Because I mean, you've been
There's
in
two.
tons of them.
There's two, and then they're way above all the rest. Um, the first one, there's three actually, but the main one, to answer your question, is the last thing I ever did, or next to me, it was the last thing, but next to it. Barry, I did Stovka, the Russian hitman, in an episode of Barry. Now, this is the
Hmm.
last thing in my mind that I ever did, and why I got out right after that. It happened in 2018. I didn't have to audition. I was all ready to get out. I thought I'm never going to act again. I don't like it. It
Hmm.
became a drag, and so I thought I'm getting out. I called my agent and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Take me off the list. Don't send me out. It's over. I don't like it. I don't care if I starve to death. I'll find something else. This is it. Okay, so they called me at home. Barry production office called me at home, and they said, we want you to do a small part. And I thought, great, because it's I know how to do small parts, but I could use the money, and I loved well, what's the leads? I can never remember names. Bill Hader. I love Bill Hader's work, so I always looked up to him from the minute he was on Saturday Night Live all the way through his movie stuff until he got Barry. I thought, this guy is a great writer. He's a great actor. He's a funny guy. When he gets into a character, you can't see Bill Hader. You just see this funny character.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, well, you do a small part. It's a hitman. It's only one day's work. And they were very apologetic and very respectful of my, my history. And I said, yeah, I think I'll do it now. What is it? He says, very small. It's only, little scene. I go, yeah. And they said it was a lot of money. So I said, yeah. So they sent me the thing, and I looked at it, and it was a real guy. It was it was a character in a sitcom. But for some reason, I had incredible respect for Bill Hader and what he was doing, and the fact that he was writing, directing, and performing in this thing. And I had seen 2 or 3 episodes. I think I was on the 3rd episode. I had seen the first, and I thought he was doing a great job. And so, just out of respect for Bill Hader, like my mom, all these years later, I was the first guy that I ever wanted to do it because I wanted to do a good job for Bill. Mm-hmm. That was my motivation. I said, Bill Hader, man, I'll do anything for that guy. But if this is a small part, I'm going to do now because, I've been 30, 40 years as an actor. I'm going to do a backstory. It was the first time I had ever done a backstory for any part. I always did it like an improv. Oh, yeah, I'll just, put on the hat and I'll go out on stage. I don't care. And it always worked, So I said, no, I'm gonna do a backstory. I'm gonna treat this like a major part because of Bill. And so I did a backstory. I had, because in what is this called, a warning. I'm going to give away the ending of my scene, but
spoiler.
Instead of shooting this guy, I was a hitman brought in to shoot Bill and his partner. And Bill wasn't around, so I got his partner, and I'm about to kill him. And they shipped me in from Russia, and the whole point of it was they were going to ship me in from Russia, shoot the guy, put me immediately on a plane, a Russian, tourist plane, and get me back to Russia so there's no way to catch me. And as I'm about to shoot him, I turn the gun on myself and commit suicide because I don't want to do it anymore. And to me, it was like acting. It was Stofka doesn't want to be a hitman anymore, and Larry doesn't want to be an actor anymore. So this is perfect. So he shoots himself. So I did a backstory about why did he want to commit suicide. And in the script, it says he's confessing before he kills him. He confesses why he's going to do what he's going to do. And the guy I'm shooting thinks, well, he's going to shoot me. So he's going to tell me why he's going to shoot me. I don't need to know this. But I'm really telling him why I'm going to kill myself. I don't say kill myself. I say, this is why I'm going to do what I'm going to do next. And then I tell him, my wife found out I'm a hitman for the KGB. And I've been killing people all through their marriage, all through my life. And she just found out about it. And she's divorcing me and taking my 2 kids. And I can't take that because I'm an older man. I'm in my 70s in the story. And I miss my kids, and I love my wife, and I love my kids, and I can't take it anymore. And I can't quit. They will kill me if I quit. Hey, I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm going to do it myself. And then I go bang and I kill myself. So I did that whole backstory and I pictured it, and I had the grief, and I do the scene. Now, they said on the phone, they said, would you mind if we had a Russian coach for your Russian accent? And I said, no, that would be great, because all I have, I didn't say this, but I said, no, that would be fine. But I knew all I had was an improv stand-up comedy Russian accent. Da, da, ya, da, da. And I didn't want to do that for Bill. I wanted to be real. I wanted to do this, man, the best I could. I wanted to be an actor, finally. So I had the backstory, and I do the scene, and we shot all day, and there was no coach around. And finally, as I'm going home on the way out, I met a woman, and I got to talking to her, and I said, do you know where the coach is? And she says, I'm the Russian coach. And I said, oh my God, I've been looking. Did you see my scene? She said, yeah. And I said, well, how was it? I didn't know. And she said, no, it was fine. And then I went, it was? And I go, okay. And then I went up to Bill and I said, Bill, you didn't coach me at all. You didn't say a word the entire day. I was expecting something. I'm out there on a limb. I didn't know if my accent was right. I didn't know if I was doing the thing right. Why didn't you talk to me? I needed help out there. And I was ready to go out the door. And he said, really? And he said this. He said, well, me and my partner, his partner was with him, and his partner helps him direct. So they were both there, the two writers of this. He said, me and my partner were watching you, and we didn't write the scene the way you were doing it. But it was so great that we didn't know where you were coming from, and we had nothing to tell you to make you better, because we didn't know what the character was, but we didn't want to stop you or interrupt you because you were, acing it. So we just stood back and let you go. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. So if you didn't know what you were doing, man, forget it. You were great. And I go, thank you. And I left, and I said, all right, I'm out. Get out on top.
Climatic ending.
Never worked again. So, in other words, really doing the job and knowing the job from the inside. First time I ever did a backstory and treated it like a real actor. It works, man. And that's what I do now when I write, man. I just do it right. Now, writing is flow, man. It's all flow. And once you get in front of a camera, you got to forget all that backstory and everything. You just got to flow, go with the scene, what they're saying, flow. But you can only flow when you get it, when you think like a snake. And have
reference is a big one now, man.
Well, yeah, and have brass balls in your head. Don't take crap from anybody.
Right.
You do it your way. Okay, that's it. Hey, and I got two books out. One is called The Loophole Dossier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I have it around. Do I? No, I don't. I don't. But it's called The Loopholes Dossier. It's on Amazon. It's a book. It's really funny. It's a bunch of short stories I wrote. And the next one is coming up in January, and it's called That Guy, and it's about all these stories of
Yep. I definitely want to check that one out. Guys, the links are all going to be below. Y'all can check out all this work this man is doing. My gosh, the stories that you've been saying so far, the snake shedding the skin all the way, and everyone turning to orphans. And I love how you just told me, out of all the movies that you have done, roles, anything, you were dedicated to make that film matter because you gave respect to a certain individual in this film, and you wanted to give it your all. And man, congrats on that, man. Congrats on that. That's definitely definitely deep.
Do it now for writing, I
exactly, man.
Move on, man. Okay,
hey,
take it easy. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks, Larry. Thank you.